sighs this morning. So I thought I knew when I started here 7 years ago why I was here. And I did on one level. I knew that I was asked to come and be the spiritual leader and that they needed somebody who could give good talks. They needed somebody with business experience, and because there were needs in both areas. And so I knew that, and I said yes to that, and I was very happy about that. We were all very happy about that. But as the months and the years started to roll by, I had a greater understanding about why I was here. And it did take me time to embrace all the other gifts, all the other reasons, because they didn't make sense at first. They kind of took me by surprise. In fact, they didn't kind of take me by surprise. They did take me by surprise. I thought it was all about the community, all about what we do here. And if I had just leaned on my sight, my first sight of falling in love with this place and saying yes to it, then that would have been based on the evidence I had in front of me, the physical evidence, the reasons that Judy and I talked about that first time. So as time evolved and as I evolved, as I opened up, as I leaned on my other sight, the first meeting site that I talked about in Mark Nepo's writing, these other things opened up, and I started to go, oh, that's why I'm here. This ability to understand, which is another one of the 12 powers, is something that we have to be open to experience. You almost have to surrender to that and let yourself just be purely open, completely open, whatever that means in the moment, and we have to discover what that is, so that something that has a message for us, has a reason for us, has a why for us, can open up within us. I remember almost vividly, I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I remember being in this room, and it was after service was over, and we were all saying, some of us were saying goodbye, others were in conversation, and I was hugging somebody who was getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden it occurred to me that one of the reasons I was here that was not immediately evident was for family and community. Family and community. So much of my family is deceased. I only have a sibling left from my family of origin. So both my parents are gone, and my sister, who's 4 years older, is gone. And most of the people that, well, at that time, I would say most of the people that were from outside of my immediate family, aunts, uncles, my grandparents, certainly on both sides of the family, were all gone. So I was missing family terribly, terribly. I mean, there were just days where it just felt like there was this huge vacuum inside of me that couldn't be filled. And I just kind of sat with that because I think once you have, I know in my experience that once you have a trust in spirit, a trust in God, then you can be in those dark times and not be afraid and not feel like something is wrong because you have an understanding. There's that one of the 12 powers again about what's happening outside of that feeling. So I just sat with that because I know that I am always supported, if you want to use that word. And that word is really not sufficient for the feeling. So in that moment, when I was hugging somebody goodbye, I thought, oh my goodness, look what's happened. I was brought here to answer a prayer I didn't know I had prayed. Knowing why. But knowing why on a level that was deeper than what my physical eyes could see, what the physical evidence taught me, told me, showed me. I had no evidence when I first walked in here that that need could be filled here. None. But because I remained open, the why, the other whys, WHYS, became known to me. Just in a moment of surrender in someone's arms, being hugged. Spiritual understanding. It's so much more than what we think. So yes, there's mental understanding. Again, you've got evidence in front of you, and you can calculate and say, oh, I see why this is happening because I got this, this, and this. I got A, B, C, and D. And that all makes sense to you. But with spiritual understanding, often things don't make rational sense. Why would I think coming here and being a spiritual leader would lead me to finding family and a close community that would touch my heart deeply, deeply, deeply? I had no evidence of that. In fact, I never occurred to me to look for it here because all I saw at the beginning was that feeling of loss that I had. The feeling that family was gone. But I allowed myself to just sit with the feeling, and I know that if I sit with the feeling, that God is there present in the feeling. And I have a trust that all things are well. Like I said in our opening meditation, I know everything's well, even as I'm sitting in the loss, even as I'm sitting wondering, where is family now? How do I define family now? How do I define community now? Where do I find it? I felt no compulsion to go out and make it happen because I'm okay just sitting in surrender. Sitting in surrender. And if you can sit until the understanding comes, then the light bulb goes on. And you have that moment like I did in that hug saying, oh, thank you. Thank you. Understanding is represented by the apostle, the disciple, Thomas. And this is what it says about understanding. It's the ability to know, perceive, and apprehend. The disciple is Thomas. He represents the ability to see beyond appearances to reality. Understanding is important in developing our spiritual nature because it is the faculty that puts feet under our prayers and gives our spiritual activity something to stand on. Blind faith, faith without understanding of the spiritual laws, may get results on occasion, but our spiritual growth demands a base that is more dependable. Understanding that is grounded in spiritual truth. Thomas is the disciple who stands for the faculty of understanding. A study of his contact with Jesus gives us some insight into the way we must develop our own ability to think and learn and make deductions and draw conclusions so that we may awaken this spiritual quality in us. Thomas didn't always have spiritual understanding, but he wanted to learn. He didn't mind asking questions, and he listened to Jesus' answers. Thomas is probably best known for doubting the news of the resurrection when he heard it secondhand from the other disciples. Jesus respected Thomas's need to know firsthand. The awakening of our own faculty of understanding starts with questioning the old ways of thinking that we may have taken for granted. The desire for understanding leads to thinking about what is learned and seeking to put it all together in a body of information that will provide a basis for living. Understanding is different from wisdom. Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of Unity, defines wisdom as intuitive knowing, spiritual intuition, and understanding. Understanding as the ability of the mind to apprehend and realize the laws of thought and the relation of ideas to one another. To put it more simply, wisdom knows, understanding knows why. When your understanding is developed in both head and feet, not only will you have the light in mind, but you will also have the ability to apply it in your world. So if you can sit in the question, sitting in the darkness, sitting in your loss, is sitting in a question. What do I do with this? What is this? Why is it dark? Why am I feeling like this? Even the question, why can't I feel something else? And just letting yourself be in the question in the dark and letting yourself wait. They talk about waiting upon the Lord. Waiting for the answer, waiting for the prayer to be answered. Waiting for the why when it shows up. Because it doesn't always show up when we think it's going to show up. It doesn't always show up at a convenient time right when you want the answers. I've talked to you about my spiritual tantrums I have sometimes because things just don't work out when I want them, how I want them, or I don't get the answers, how I want them, when I want them. Please answer me now. What's going on? And so I get uncomfortable. But that's why we need to sit in the question, sit in the darkness, so to speak, and be there until it comes, because it comes at the right moment. It came at that moment when I was in the hug, and I was feeling family, and I was feeling love all through me, and I could recognize that that was the answer to my question all along. Where's my family? And love said, right here. Right here. Right here. The why. So yeah, I came to be spiritual leader. I came to give talks. I came to set up business structure. I came for family as well. Came for community as well. I came for love as well. The why showed up in the understanding. That was really the first sight. That was falling in love in that moment. Letting myself be open to love, letting myself just be and waiting for the understanding to well up within me. So Deborah was reading about harmony, and one of those 4 faculties she talked about was faith. You have to have the faith that the understanding is there, will come. You have to have faith that the answers are there, that there's something that supports you, that's running through you, that's expressing as you, that's got not just your back, but has everything ready for you. Everything you didn't know you asked for. Everything we didn't know we asked for. All the answers. Gotta be willing to wait, be patient. So part of the understanding is knowing. Knowing that it's okay. Knowing that it's coming. Knowing that it's going to come in a way that's going to rock your world. My world was rocked in that moment. So are you willing to wait? Are you willing to be open? Are you willing to surrender and stay open? Always. Waiting, not anxiously, waiting in knowingness. And wait for the whys to come. Why this? Why that? Why am I really here? Why is this happening? Why is this thing before me? Why is this not working out? You know, these 12 powers can change your life if you will let yourself be in them, if you will let yourself recognize them, if you will let yourself affirm them, even if you don't know what they are. I've studied them in classes. I've studied them through reading books about them. I've probably read 4 or 5 books about the 12 powers by different authors. And then I just set upon affirming them throughout my life, throughout my day. And they just started showing up. The power started showing up within me. I realized I had another faculty, I had another tool with which to deal with life. And they do give you a harmony of body and mind, so that you can navigate life more gracefully. Even when it feels like the stuff's hitting the fan, especially when it feels like stuff is hitting that fan. I think that's the greatest gift, that when I'm in the darkness, so to speak, quote unquote darkness, that I know there's light. That I know there's light. And that the question why gets answered, that the understanding will come if I stay surrendered, if I stay open, if I stay in the knowledge that God is ever present. Whether you believe God is out there or in here or as you, whatever you believe. So understanding. It's something we use. It's a tool for your life, like the other 11. And they take patience and they take time to develop. And they all work together. So I invite you to sit in the questions. Allow yourself to ask. Allow yourself to doubt. But don't run from it. Allow yourself to be there and have the faith that the answers are coming, always, that the answers are sitting right there for the perfect moment for you to appreciate them. Truly, truly appreciate them. I have not forgotten that moment. I have not forgotten that hug, and I probably never will. Watershed moment for me. Let's take this into meditation. So breathe deeply. What's one of your deepest questions? What's one of the things in your life that you've been asking why about? Maybe you've had that why for so long, you have forgotten the question. What's that thing in your life that's not making sense? The thing that confounds you, perhaps makes you doubt that there's a loving God. Because whatever it is that you're questioning, is deep and dark and seems to have no answer. So if you know what that is, be willing to ask why again, but this time with the knowledge that understanding will come. Understanding is coming, shall come, when the time is right. When you're open and receptive. When you've stopped running. When you've stopped trying to figure it out yourself. Perhaps the answer is right there in front of you. But because you've turned off, you can't see it. Because you're so convinced that there's not enough love, not enough goodness, not enough abundance, that perhaps you haven't been good enough. Perhaps you've committed some transgression and you're being punished. And all of that is blocking spiritual understanding. Sometimes the darkness we create obscures the light. It's waiting to flood our consciousness and our hearts. Sometimes our stubbornness blocks the light. Our refusal to surrender blocks the light. Our refusal to be open blocks the light. So in this moment, I invite you to say within your heart of hearts, let there be light. But this situation in my life, I give thanks for spiritual understanding. I say yes. To the all-loving presence that is God, to illumine my mind, to flood me with the light. The light of understanding around this thing in my life. I surrender to love. I surrender to love and light. Let's take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale. Relax into your surrender, relax, let go. Open your arms wide. Let it in. Say yes again. And say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for understanding. So it is, and so it shall be. Amen.